Okay. Set my timer. Okay, so I'm going to, I guess the first thing, I've got that open. I'm just going to make myself a new post. So there's been a little bit of confusion about this. I'll just go over this one more time. To get to your login or to get to your admin page, at just when you're at your base URL, your root URL, just go to wp-admin. You can also do WP login and a couple different things. If you're logged in already, it'll take you to this dashboard. If you're not logged in, it'll ask you to log in. And since I can do this really quickly. I'm going to hit new post up in the top. I'm going to add my drawings because I have some drawings I need to add to this website. And all I'm really concerned about is putting images here. So I'm going to select file. Let me go through that again so you can see. So I'm clicking this add an image icon, which brings up this light box, allows me to select the folder, so where I navigate to the images on my desktop. Now I'm going to do 4 of them. So it uploads them real quick, and I'm immediately able to, I can show and hide these things. I can edit the images, do things like cropping and whatnot, but I highly recommend, especially for a portfolio, to do all of your editing and cropping and things in Photoshop or another editing program before you upload it. Another note about the images is that they really should never be more than 1 megabyte each, and the maximum dimension that I ever upload is about 1200 pixels on a side. The largest dimension would be about 1200 pixels, and that's because the largest screens aren't really capable of showing much more than that, and if you upload an image or have people download images that are any larger than that, you're going to slow down the loading of your website, and also kind of turn people off, because if things take too long to load, people are apt to leave. And I know if something's taking long, I'll just throw my hands up and go do something else. So if we look down here, there are a bunch of different little windows that we can edit. We can change the title. We can add something called alternate text. We can add a caption. We can add a description. So if I do that, it doesn't really matter for me right now because I'll do it, but we'll see. So foot, alternate title of my foot drawing. Caption, this is my caption for the foot. And I spent a long time on this. And then it gives me the URL, and it allows me to choose a size. So by default, WordPress will give you a range of sizes that you can choose from. So I'm just going to select large. I'm going to choose alignment none. Just leave that the same, and then hit insert into post. Now when I go down here, my screen is really small. I'm going to make this 1 column. And enlarge this. So you see now that in my visual editor, I have this really giant image of this foot. And, oh, it did add the caption. Holy balls. Didn't know that happened. And then I'm going to add some body to the text. So this is my collection drawings from is it MGH? Is that right? Yeah? No?
I think it's not.
Okay. Something like that. I'm just gonna say Anne because if she's poking around on YouTube and finds this, I don't want her to be upset at me. Okay, so now let's see what happens. So if I go to my HTML, I see that all this stuff has been added in for me. It has added something with the caption ID. It's added in automatic a link here that we see, and it looks like it goes to the image. It adds in, oops, it added in an image, which is the foot drawing. Tells it what size it's supposed to be, closes it off. So it has a short tag for a caption, and then it has the text that I just wrote. So that looks good. I'm just going to preview it real quick. Preview. So you see, looks like my website. At this point, it's not published, so you don't have to worry about anyone seeing something that's not finished. But I've got my giant drawing. I realize that's way too big, but it's got everything there. So what I can do to change that, I'm going to go back to Visual, click on it. I clicked on the little icon there, and I'm just going to shrink it down to 60%. Update. Okay, that's much more manageable. Now, okay, so I had the one image. I want to add in the rest of them real quick. So just I can click on the add an image, and instead of going to my computer and uploading the images again, I can see that the gallery has 4 images already loaded in it. So I have the foot. I'm just going to open up these ones and then just add insert into post into each one. This is kind of tedious. A gallery is actually a different thing. Let me show you what happens there. Well, let's do that I'll do that on a different page. So, alright, I'm just going to save this, publish it, and go to JTerm. And then, so when I refresh it, I see that my new post is on the top. And I've got these 4 images. These ones are also way too big, but I've got them there. Now you asked what happens if I do a gallery. So that didn't really work out for me. WordPress has this nice little function called gallery or add gallery. Go down here, I can insert gallery, I can change some things. So I have 4 images. I'm going to make a 2x2 grid. And you can choose whether to link it to the image file, all sorts of things. Don't worry about this too much. Update it, go back, refresh, and now it gives me automatically little thumbnails with the captions below apparently, and right above the text that I wrote. And you can style these so these have, you know, outlines or not, or they're closer together. But it kind of gives you a super easy, but kind of, I think it's a little bit, doesn't work very well, gallery. So, okay, I'm going to show you how I go about doing a slideshow. Now, if I show you, I'll give you an example. Yeah. I'm sorry? After you put the images into the gallery, does it not have to be in the same place? Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll show you where those images go. So I uploaded those images, and if I go back to my WordPress, I'll go to localhost and go to my WordPress install. Inside WP content, there's a folder called uploads. And anytime you upload an image or PDF or any kind of file through the WordPress administration panel, it automatically uploads it into this folder system here. And you see that it's got a bunch of different things. Even though I uploaded 4 images, it automatically made crops at different sizes. So it made a thumbnail, it made a small version of this, it made a larger version, and then it kept the original. Now you can change how that works, but know that it automatically uploads into these folders. And then once they're uploaded, you can move them or delete them if you want to, because they're living in there. So what we're going to do is change the way that WordPress reacts to the images we've uploaded to a post. So you can see this here. When you go to this post on my portfolio, instead of showing them all in a line, like vertical top to bottom or in a grid, I have it shows up one image at a time, and you can click, and then it has this little transition, this fade in, fade out, and they show up in the same place. So I find that this is a little cleaner if you've got a lot of images, but I'll show you how this is accomplished. Also, these things are all sized correctly, so they don't exceed a certain width, and so that saves on your bandwidth. So I'll make a little more sense in a second. First thing I want to do, I'm going to delete this gallery. Leave that text there. And I'm going to save this. So if I were to reload that, I would just see the text. All the images are gone from the source code, but the images are still associated with the post. So that's good to know. The setting. Now this is something small aside. We saw the images that WordPress automatically made when you uploaded your image. That's not super useful for me because I automatically size the images, as I'll show you, using a script. So I'd like to turn that off. So in, I think it's Media, under Settings and Media, you can set things like thumbnail size. So if you do want them, which is fine, you can set the specific sizes. So if you know that you always want images that are going to be a maximum of 800 on one side, then you can just enter that here. But if you don't want it, I'm just going to delete all these. And when the next time I go to upload something, it won't make those new, it won't multiply the number of images in my uploads folder. Saving your, and it saves your disk space, it saves your hosting space, etc. Okay. So it's at the very bottom under Settings, and then Media. Is that coming up? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to need to start writing some code to tell WordPress to start adding my images automatically. Now I've neglected to tell you intentionally so far about one of the important files in a WordPress theme, and that's functions.php. Not every theme has a functions.php, but probably 99% of them do. And what it is it just contains little helper snippets of code that are specific to the theme to help it change the way something looks or add a new functionality that's not in WordPress automatically. But it can be empty, and if it's empty it doesn't do anything, or you can add things like I have. I've added a couple little things to get you started, and the one we're going to look at here is this ones that deal with images. Since we're working with images for portfolios, this should make it much easier to get and display your images. So this one that I'm going to talk about here is this function called make Tim Thumb image array, which is kind of funny sounding, but I'm just going to copy it for now. I'm not going to explain it too in depth because it would take a few more classes to figure out just this. But I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go, and I know that I want to, in my index, I may trail off it a couple times, and I'm just going to figure something out and then get back to you. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to tell you, I want my images to show up below my title and above my text. And I want to do this automatically without having to drop them in. And I want them all to be the same size, and be able to fit into a box that I can make into a slideshow. So that's my goal, and follow me on my journey. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a div because I want them all to be able to live in their own little space. And this, I'm just going to call this div class image div. No client image gallery. Also note, I'm going to be freestyle coding here, so I might run into a couple snags, but it'll give you an opportunity to see what happens when you run into a problem and how you can fix it or troubleshoot things. So right now I've just made this new div called image gallery, and I'm going to paste in that little chunk of code, which is PHP actually, so I need to put it inside the PHP tags. Going to save it, go back here and refresh. When I refresh, nothing happens, so I know that I look back here, it turns an image array. So this little chunk of code makes an array, which is essentially just like a list of different things. And when I just do this, it makes an array, but it doesn't know what to do with it. It doesn't know whether to print it or what. So if I type echo make Tim Thumb array, well, let's see what happens. I get this little thing, it just says array. Okay, I've got an array, but it gives me no idea of what's inside of it. So the next step, and I'm going to give you all this code, so it'll be much easier for you to just kind of like pick it up, copy, paste it, and then change some of the options. But it'll be good for you to see how it's the thought process. So I've got echo make Tim Thumb array. I'm going to turn this into a variable called image array. And remember, variables have to have the little $sign in front of it. And since I know that arrays have multiple numbers of things, but I don't know how many are going to be there, because some posts might have 4 images like I had, others might have 1, some might have 0. We just have to be able to plan for any situation. So I'm going to make a loop that will go through as many images as there are per post. So I'm going to say for, and we saw this yesterday, but in this time we're gonna say for each. And instead of having an iterator that goes one by one, it's gonna say for each image, variable image in image array, and then it's just gonna say do something. So this is similar to the loop we did yesterday, but like I said, it won't go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like it has a box of items and it says, okay, pull each box out. I don't care what they're called, I don't care what they're numbered. Just pull each one out and then we're going to do something with that. So for each image, echo image, and we'll see what comes out.
So image is defined as image earlier in it?
So image array. So first of all,
Is it always defined as that?
no, we can make this anything we want. This is just kind of to help us imagine where these are coming from. So I have defined image array, and I've set it equal to this array that comes out of the function which I gave you. And it's not super important that you know how that works. But I'm just saying, okay, make this image array, call it image array. And then in this for each, I'm saying each one of the items in there, I'm going to call it image. And inside this loop, I'm going to refer to it as image. And each time it goes through the loop, it'll be a different item, but it'll be called the same thing. Does that make sense? It's difficult. It's a kind of difficult concept to understand, but hopefully maybe it'll make more sense when we go do it again, or when we reload it. So I refresh it
So if
and
you
nothing
said, like,
happens.
$sign something different array, then you would say, like, let's say if I said dollar drawing array, or is like, does that make sense? Like, is image array like a term known for in CSS, or is it just because you defined it as that, and then whatever comes before array is your defined as?
No, I just defined it. This is totally arbitrary. I could call this
So
monkey
I would say
butt.
dollar drawing array.
Yes.
And then I would say dollar drawing and dollar drawing array, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But we never defined image.
We didn't define image, and we're actually defining it here. This is a shortcut that we can use only in for each. It did break. So let's find out why. And I guess I forgot how this works, but that's okay. So I'm just going to Google PHP for each. That's because I was like, I don't know how this works, obviously. And so I see right here, this first little thing, it says, for each array expression as value. I got it backwards. So let's just make sure we look down here. So I'm supposed to put the array, which is my image array, first, and then say as, and then my variable that I make. So I screwed the pooch, and I just put everything backwards, which is why it broke, and as image. So that's just because I was working in other languages, and different languages have you define things in different orders. Now I refresh it, it's still broken. Is that working for anyone else? Don't think it should.
I'm getting like a post title, and then when you click on it.
Yeah. So you can tell it's broken if you right-click and go to View Source. And you go down and you can see Image Gallery, right? Is the last thing there, the opening tag, and then it just cuts off. There's nothing after that Image Gallery. So that means that once the PHP interpreter reached that point, it hit an error and just stopped outputting text. So that's how we know, okay, something's wrong right after this div class Image Gallery. So take a second. Print. So let's find out what's inside this image array. So when I have a broken piece of code, but I don't want to erase it yet because I know I'm going to want to edit it, I'm just commenting it out using these star and slashes, and you can tell it'll vary depending on your text editor what color it turns, but it should turn either like gray or blue, I think by default. Um, okay, so we're getting something here. Um, when I do this function, which is print R, which is specifically for arrays, it just says print everything that's in this array. You know, go through every object, go through every everything inside that object, and just dump it out onto the screen. And so we see first here it says, okay, I've got an array. Inside that array I have objects, and inside those objects I have things post author, I've got dates, and I see here that I've got my images, which is exactly what I want. And it's doing that for each post. So far so good. See that my array is working. Let's try image. Okay. Exeter. Sulk. Post ID. I'm going to change this. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, but so let me tell you my problem right now that I'm trying to solve. So I've got my function, and it's kind of working. It's automatically going through and it's finding each image. So we see that this is an image string. I've got it right now just printing out the URL of the image. The problem is that it's finding every single image that I've uploaded to my website, so and not just the ones associated with that individual post. So in my drawings, I expect to see just these ones, this img.jpegs, and I'm seeing the Exeter and the Sulk ones, which are associated with these other ones, and likewise for every other page, which is not what I want, because for each, it's important that I only see the images associated with that post. So I have a feeling that it's because I'm not setting my ID correctly. It'll take me a moment to figure that one out. do I turn this thing off? Let go. Okay, there we go. Crap on a crutch. Sorry about this, I've never quite done on-the-spot coding like this before.
Are there pieces of code out there that you can just copy and paste to like
There is, and there are plugins that we can use. Once we get this, I can show you how to work the plugin. Let's try. Okay. Okay, this is why. maybe let's take a 10-minute break. Is that okay? And let me fix this.